People's Action is one of the largest and fastest growing multiracial people's organizations in the country. We are 37 member organizations in 27 states with more than 1 million grassroots leaders. You are a critical part of the People's Wave, fighting for social and economic equality and lifting up new leaders that center women, people of color, and LGBTQ people. Woo! We all share our vision of a country that works for everyone, not just the wealthy few. In 2018, the People's Wave helped to transform the political landscape of this country. As People's Action, we talked to 497,730 voters and helped to win in 25 congressional races, 9 United States Senate races, 10 gubernatorial races, 115 down ballot races from county commission to state senate, and we passed 10 major ballot initiatives. Whew. At our last convention in 2017, we pledged to recruit and train and run more than 500 of our members to run for office at every level of government between 2017 and 2020. Since then, more than 300 of our members across the country won elected office. And we're just getting started. Together, we're moving a long-term agenda for racial, gender, economic, environmental, and social justice. We are building powerful state and local organizations and campaigns that win real change for people's lives. Power comes from big, bold ideas and from organizing and taking action to turn those ideas into reality and improve the lives for everyone.
Okay, so who are we? Who are we? Who are we?
So now we're going to hear from our wonderful leader, our executive director of People's Action, George Gale.
People's Action. People's Action. People's Action. So 10 years ago, I stood in this room at this podium with a bunch of you. The nation was in a financial crisis. People we know were losing their jobs and their homes hand over fist. State budget cuts, cutting everything we cared about, and pensions that people earned over a lifetime gone in an instant. And we said, we got a choice to make. Where are we going to go from here? We said, well, one, we could hunker down and play defense and just try to protect what we got. It was a real option. The second was to go back to the good old days. But I don't remember the good old days being so good for people of color, for immigrants, for women, or for the planet. So we said we will not go back. But we had a third choice, and that third choice was to completely reimagine what was possible. To not let the dire nature of the moment lower our expectations about what we deserved and what we could win. Which path do you think we picked? Damn straight. We picked the third. We built the long-term agenda to the new economy. We said, hey, defense is great, but at the end of the day, if you want to win, you got to put some points on the damn scoreboard. And guess what? 10 years later, our ideas, big ideas are on the table. Medicare for all is on the table. 100% just Green New Deal is on the table. Free college is on the table. The right for currently incarcerated people to vote is on the table. And reparations is on the table. And you did that. So now, we point to 2020. And we got a priority, and that is helping Donald Trump find a new address, right? But we can have two priorities at once. Our other priority is to move our big idea agenda. The truth is, we don't have to forfeit one for the other, right? We don't win despite our big ideas, we win because of them, and that's how we're gonna send Trump home. But get ready for this. This is what's gonna happen, and we gotta get prepared. People are gonna say, hey, you gotta slow down with those big ideas for a minute. You need to moderate. You need to move to the middle. Have you tried incrementalism? That's what's coming. Well, People's Action, we did not come here to tinker. We are not here to make a few copy edits to the rule book. We're here to throw it in the damn dumpster, light it on fire, and write a new one. Right? So a little history. People's Action grows out of 5 organizations: the Alliance for a Just Society, U.S. Action, Campaign for America's Future, CHEJ, and National People's Action. At the National People's Action, when we planned our first convention in 1972, the pundits said, this will never work. You will never get white, black, and brown people to stick together. You will never get urban and rural people to stick together, and you will never get the young and old to stick together. It will fall apart. Well, to borrow a line from Iowa CCI's Brenda LeBlanc, we've got news for the pundits. We have outlasted Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush #1, Clinton, Bush #2, President Obama, and I promise you we will outlast Donald Trump. We all got to know that this room, urban, suburban, and rural, is a threat to structural racism and patriarchy. This room, black, white, Latinx, Native, and Asian, is a threat to corporate rule. Make no mistake about it, our presence here together is a radical act, okay? So I'll close with this. The great Shirley Chisholm said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Well, come 2021, they better set up 1,000 chairs for us, because we're going to take our seat and we're going to take it together. All right? All right. I've got the honor of introducing our next speaker. Our next speaker is a poet, a fighter, a thinker, a dreamer, a sister, a friend, and a top-shelf truth teller. Her head shake can shut down big mouths and dumb ideas in a heartbeat. She is living proof that organizers can do fashion, and to me, she is what happens if Beyonce meets organizing. Because she and her sisters declaring that Black Lives Matter have put all of us in formation. All right? So we live in an era of social movements. And to me, none has been more important in the last 10 years than Black Lives Matter. Just, right? Ponder for a moment all the ways the movement for Black Lives has become part of our culture, given birth to a new celebration of blackness, and shook up and woke up most of America, all while centering black women, especially black queer women, in this moment. And that ain't all. She's now turning incredible cultural openings into political power for black people through the Black Census Project and the Black Futures Lab. And if that ain't enough, she's also the Director of Strategy and Partnerships for the National Domestic Workers Alliance. Let's give a big, big, big People's Action welcome to our friend, Alicia Garza.
What's good, People's Action? I said, what's good, People's Action? It is a complete honor to be back here with you all. The first time I met People's Action was actually in this room about 6 years ago, when the National Domestic Workers Alliance and National People's Action at the time came together to take names and kick some butt. And we're ready to do it again, are we not? So I just kind of need to see this people's wave. So can we start on the left-hand side? I need to see that wave. Can we see the people's wave? Come on, y'all, let me see it. Come on. Woo! Woo! Come on and bring it back on this side. That was amazing. I got some news for y'all. Thank you, George, for that incredible introduction. I will take it. And if you want to see more of me and George talking about how we get rid of white nationalism once and for all, anybody ever watch that show, United Shades of America? Me and George finna be on that thing next Sunday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on CNN. Don't miss it. It's really gonna be good. All right, so yesterday, as I was preparing for this conversation, I turned on the television and learned that a gunman had opened fire in a synagogue, killing one and injuring 3 other people. The shooter was 19 years old, armed with an assault rifle and the belief that Jews seek to destroy the white race. Earlier this week, a 34-year-old man drove his car through a crowd of people that he believed were Muslims. And as a result, a 13-year-old girl is in critical condition and she's in a coma. All of these tragic events happened in my home state of California, which is known as a progressive bastion as compared to the rest of the nation. You see, it would be too simplistic, too idealistic to say that these incidents are isolated. They're not. In fact, these violent incidents are endemic to how our country functions. You see, America was built on violence. America was steeped in white supremacy. And America was predicated on theft and genocide. Now, most of how we understand race and class and gender and all these categories in this country, it's through a lens of mean people and nice people, good people and bad people. When we hear about gunmen shooting up mosques and synagogues, or opening fire in black churches, or setting churches on fire, we shake our heads and we lament that those are bad people who aren't like the rest of us. When black people who are unarmed, not just with weapons, but unarmed with the political power that could change how safety happens in our communities, when black people are executed on video for the entire world to witness, we say that most officers are good people, but this one clearly is a bad person. We imagine that one day a world will come about where nobody sees color. And yet those of us who are of color, who are anything but the control against which everything else is measured, we just want to be free to be our full selves and not be killed or disenfranchised or otherwise oppressed because of it. People call for unity because we already know that, in theory, we are stronger together than we are in our small fiefdoms. Some of us bemoan identity politics because we think that focusing on race or anything else that highlights our differences is tearing us apart. But I would argue, however, and argue forcefully, that a focus on what makes us different and an understanding of why we should care about that, why we should honor and celebrate and uplift that, might be the only thing that will put us and this country back together again. You see, identity politics is a buzzword that has been used to mock the ways that our movements have fought to make America face the contradictions of its own existence. From pundits on television news shows to candidates who are seeking elected office, identity politics gets used pejoratively, that means badly, as a way to describe what happens when America is held to account for the distance that exists between who it claims to be and who it actually is. But we have to remember people's action, that identity politics was coined by working class Black women like Barbara Smith, who demanded to be seen as a whole person deserving of dignity. Black, lesbian, woman, working class, all at the same time. Our sister Barbara argued that we cannot separate what we fight for and what we fight against from our experiences of what it has meant to stay alive in this country. Identity politics was and still is a way for us to understand how our lives are shaped by the categories that were developed to assign power to some and keep power from others. And so when I say that I am Black, it should help you to understand that my life is shaped by the color of my skin, and that the color of my skin has assigned me a lack of power in relationship to those with white skin. When I say that I am a woman, it should help you to understand that my life is shaped by my gender, and that my gender has assigned me a lack of power in relationship to those who are men. When I say that I am queer, it should help you to understand that my life is shaped by my sexuality, and that my sexuality has assigned me a lack of power in relationship to those who are heterosexual. And when I say that I am Black, queer, and woman all at the same time, you should understand that my life is being shaped by my race, by my gender, by my sexuality, and by many other factors, all at the same time. We are all being shaped by categories that have been developed by those in power to keep themselves in power and to keep others away from it. Some of these categories serve to fool us into believing that some of us are better than others. Categories like race and gender and sexuality and disability and class, all of these are hierarchies that have been set up by people in power to keep their power and to indicate where on the spectrum of power other people are. When we attach traits to those categories, Mexicans are rapists, Black people are criminals, poor people are lazy, Muslims are terrorists, it helps to reinforce those power hierarchies. More importantly, there are decisions that are being made about people and what they should have access to and what they should not, who should make decisions and who should not, and those decisions matter. They are the strategies of our opposition to villainize people, to make them undesirable in our society and incapable of making the decisions that impact our lives. So when we look away from those categories, when we ignore what is happening right before our eyes, we allow the people who are currently in power to stay in power. When we look away from identity politics, we look away from the very people who must be a part of our movements in order for our movements to be powerful. Now you see, and I know y'all know, there's a power struggle happening in this country right now. It is our job to avenge the birthright of every single person in this nation, to live well, to live free, to live with dignity, to be able to see your children grow up to be adults and maybe one day have families themselves. That is what identity politics is. It is a demand that the ways in which our lives have been shaped by power and the powerful no longer get ignored. Now, you and I got work to do because our freedom is at stake at the same time that it is within our grasp. Yes, we must be concerned about the gunmen who create carnage in synagogues and black churches and mosques across the nation. And we must also be concerned about turning away from the carnage that we can create inside of our own movements when we dismiss and disappear the experiences of those who are marginalized, oppressed, or worse yet, those who accuse the marginalized of them themselves being racist just by talking about race, or being sexist just by talking about misogyny and patriarchy, or being homophobic just for talking about homophobia, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so, if there is unity to be built, which I unequivocally know that there is, we have to build our unity not just on how we want the world to operate, not just on how we want the world to be. Our unity must also be around our commitment to never again allow ourselves to be seduced by the notion that leaning into our differences is what divides us. We must never again delude ourselves into thinking that the only thing we can unite around is taking down the 1%. We must also take down the patriarchy. We must also take down white supremacy. We must also take down ableism. We must also take down poverty. We must also take down xenophobia. We have to take down each and every barrier that serves to divide us. Now, People's Action, part of taking these barriers down is acknowledging that they exist in the first place, that they shape our lives in ways that are destructive to our communities and to our planet, and that just because one of us may not be impacted in the same way doesn't mean that all of us are not impacted by their very existence in the first place. But we cannot simply just take down. We have to build. Taking down these barriers requires building new structures, new practices, new ways of being that finally get it right. Building new ways of being that can close the gap between who America says it is and who America can be today. That is why we are here together this week, People's Action, taking down the barriers between us by looking at them squarely in the face and acknowledging that our opposition tried to pull one over on us, but we will not be fooled and we will not be moved. Building new practices that bring equity and safety and dignity and real justice to our communities. Now, I believe I know that identity politics is in fact a gift that will save us all if only we would get out of our own way and let it do the work it was supposed to do. People's Action, I believe in us. I believe in our ability to build the world that we deserve, and it starts with us looking at each other squarely in the face, no matter how hard, how uncomfortable, how painful it might be, and saying to one another, I see you, I believe you, I am with you, and I will never turn away from you again. Thank you.
Now, we want to hear from a group of leaders from all around the country that embody the movement we are trying to build. Poor and working class people, Black, white, and brown from cities, suburbs, small towns, and the countryside. All of us are united around a long-term agenda to transform the economy and our society. These leaders standing behind me are going to present our long-term agenda. That, my friends, is our North Star and the vision we have for the next 40 years. They're going to be presenting the People's Platform, which will help guide our work over the next 2 years as we build governing power across this country. We want to use our People's Platform as the heart of our movement politics work. We want to elect people that share our bold vision for change and that are committed to co-govern within our communities.
Y'all, I want to hear it just one more time for Alicia, for George, for our leaders, for all y'all here today, and for the 1 million grassroots organizers that make up People's Action. That's what I call people power. Now, we here at People's Action build the power of poor and working communities in the city, in the country, and everywhere in between to win change through electoral campaigns and issue activism.
And when we say poor and working class people, we mean all of us who are hurt by corporations and the wealthy few. Poor people, low-income people, working class people, professionals, small business owners, and unemployed people.
We mean black, white, Latino, Asian, Native people, Jews, and Muslims.
We mean youth and students, and we mean retired people. We mean the elderly, and we mean people with disabilities.
We mean men, women, transgender, and gender nonconforming.
Yes, and we mean straight people and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer people.
We mean citizens and we mean immigrants.
All of us, all of us.
Good evening, People's Action. My name is Lydia Rodriguez, and I'm a statewide board member for Citizen Action New York, and I'm fighting for a future where everyone is treated as an equal with dignity and respect, and racism no longer exists.
Good evening. My name is Eliud Alcala, and I am a proud member of Neighbor to Neighbor, Massachusetts.
All right.
I am here to fight for a better future where human rights is respected, where inclusionary zoning exists, and universal housing.
We believe we need an economy for all of us. When the people have the power to make decisions, we put communities before corporations and people before profit. All poor and working people, whether black, white, or brown, should be able to live a good life, whether our basic needs are met and we do not have to struggle to get by. We believe we need to heal our history. This country is for all of us. We commit to repairing the long-standing racial inequity that has shaped this country and divided us from one another. We want everybody in and nobody out.
We believe we are connected. The health and well-being of all people and all of the planet are interconnected. It is our purpose and our responsibility to treat each other and Earth with respect. We also believe we need government for the common good. Truly democratic government is an essential tool for saving our collective challenges. We reclaim the value of government and the role of governing.
But there are barriers to our values. My name is Sugalema Lynch, and I'm with Down Home, North Carolina, and I'm fighting for the future of our children and our families. But there are many barriers in the way of us being able to make our values real in the world, like corporate control over our economy and government. The wealthy few and private corporations have taken over our economy and government. They put their own profits first. They have driven us into a period of deep economic inequality, ecological crisis, and the state-sanctioned violence. They've weakened our government. The wealthy few have distorted and demonized the role of government, claiming that the government is a problem. Meanwhile, they reshape the government to suit themselves. Funding for essential public programs has been taken away and given to the private sectors. Whole sections of our government have been put directly in the hands of the rich and powerful. And finally, we don't have the support we need to weather the hard times. The billionaire class has rolled back our social safety net. Our communities are expected to navigate these difficult times without meaningful social support programs or a strong public infrastructure. Our lives are being sacrificed by their profits.
Hey, y'all, I'm Sav from Hometown Action in Sweet Home, Alabama. Roll Tide. And I'm fighting for a future where our appearance and our paycheck do not determine our power. The forces of inequality, that's white supremacy, sexism, exploitation, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and the suppression of Native communities run deep in this country. They continue to shape our society and harm each and every one of us, whether we're brown, black, and yes, even white. Now, Alicia told us that we have a particularly nasty political movement rearing its head. That's white supremacy. It is the sharpest front of systemic racism in this country and the most sinister manifestation of our collective exploitation. White folks, we have got to get clear on this. Our platform will not be possible unless we confront racism everywhere, every time.
That's right.
Yet, even if our greatest hope is to come together across our divides, the reality is that working class and poor folks have been divided from one another by the wealthy few. They keep our people fighting against one another to keep us from turning on them. But we ain't gonna let that happen, are we? Are we? I sure as hell ain't.
Good evening. My name is Tobita Chow. I come out of Chicago with the People's Lobby. And I am the project director for Justice is Global, a new special project for global economic justice coming soon. And I am fighting for a future without borders. I'm fighting for a future where no one has the power to tell anyone else, you do not belong here. Now that future is very distant from the world we live in today, and it can be scary to lay claim to a future like that. But I feel emboldened in this place. Here at People's Action, we have developed a shared vision of the future we are fighting for over the long haul, over the next 40 years. And this is a key part of our long-term agenda. So here's the future that we are fighting for. It's a future where everyday people, and not the wealthy few, control the economy. We will win an economy that is governed democratically and works for the common good for all of us. We are fighting for real democracy. All of us, all of our communities, without exception, will have a real say in the decisions that impact our lives. We are fighting for racial justice. We will win true freedom, security, investment, and dignity for all communities targeted with racist violence and oppression. We are fighting for gender justice. In our homes, our communities, our workplaces, we will fully value women's work. And we will build a world in which women and LGBTQ people experience safety and self-determination. We are fighting for global sustainability. We will transform the whole world to create a sustainable global economy and invest first in the communities that experience the most devastating effects of environmental destruction and economic exclusion. Is this a future worth fighting for? At People's Action, this isn't just some nice ideas. These aren't just words. This long-term agenda is our North Star, and we use it to guide the work we do here and now. This is our future. Let's claim it. Whose future? Whose future? Whose future?
Now we're going to talk about the strategic pathways to get our agenda. My name is Reginald Thomas Brown. I'm a proud queer board member of Oakland, New York. And I'm fighting for a future where healthcare and housing are human rights.
My name is Adrienne Evans, and I'm the Executive Director for United Vision, United Action for Idaho. And I'm here because I'm fighting for all of us and a powerful movement that outlives us.
You see, over the last 40 years, the 1% has dismantled our social system and used our needs to make profits from them. Well, I'm here to say that today, we're going to take our public things back and put them into public. And by this, I mean public health care, guaranteed housing, free, fully funded public schools, free college, long-term child care and health care, and make the public utilities again public. Now, imagine this. What would our world look like if we did that? How would your world be different? Why don't we have that?
The wealthy few have written the rules so that more of our wealth and power is in their hands. And we're going to take back that power. We're going to revision and rebuild an economy that works for all of us. The second pathway towards our long-term agenda is that we want to rein in corporate power and increase the power that working people have in our economy. We need to break up power that corporate monopolies have over our economy, over our lives. We need to restructure our financial system so it serves families and communities, not big banks and private hedge fund managers. We need billionaires and millionaires to pay their fair share in taxes instead of handing us the bill. We need a federal jobs guarantee, a minimum wage of at least $15 an hour, and strong unions to fight for workers. We need a moratorium on factory farms, a living wage, price supports for family farmers. We need trade policies that support workers across the world and against corporate abuses. As we build our new economy, we are going back to some mythical notion that it was ever built for us. Classism, racism, sexism, and the destruction of our planet have shaped our economy for centuries. We need a bold vision, and we need the energy and investment to match it to truly build the future that we want. So our third pathway forwards is towards our long-term agenda is to build a foundation of equity and sustainability for our economy and society. We believe in targeted programs that dismantle centuries of oppression against Black, Brown, Native peoples, including substantial reparations. We believe that women, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people deserve self-determination and safety at all times, at home and in public. Our planet is in crisis. Everyone deserves the right to a healthy environment, to breathe clean air, to drink clean water. We need a new economy that puts the United States, an economy that puts people and planet first. The wealthy have reshaped government to suit their interests, retain their power. So we are building a pathway to reverse that and expand democratic control of our government. We want to expose and diminish corporate control over our democracy, and we want to build a democracy and a government that is truly of, by, and for the people. We want to reverse policies that undermine our voting rights, especially for communities of color, and we want to strengthen democratic institutions to ensure that every single person can exercise their right to vote. We demand that we not only honor, but that we embrace treaty obligations with Native peoples and respect full tribal sovereignty. We want a people-centered governance. We demand that elected officials co-govern with our communities. Nothing about us without us.
Actually, nothing about us without us is for us. The 1% built their power by using the government as a form of violence and suppression. Well, you know what? The next step that we're going to do is instead of investing in punishment, we're going to divest from punishment and invest in the things that we need for our community. This looks like ending mass incarceration. This looks like coming against the militarization of the police force. Ending the war on drugs, which actually is a war on people that look like me. The war on drugs, not a war on drugs, it's a war on people that look like me. We also want to decriminalize drugs. Decriminalize drugs and to free those who are incarcerated for drug use and clear their records. And we want to create a community where immigrants and refugees have full access. How can you be illegal on stolen land? Okay. Since this country was founded, it's been at war someplace on this planet. We are going to redirect those military resources into the communities that we deserve. Based on our platform, this is the dominant narrative that we want for 2019 and 2020. These issues are selected by our shared work as a national network and including both existing and national programs. The People's Action Platform will help guide our national work over the next 2 years, and we will use this for our endorsement of candidates and hold them accountable for our actions. Number one, improved Medicare for all. We demand Medicare for all, a universal single-payer system for health care that we deserve.
Homes guarantee. All right. We need a homes guarantee that reinvests in public housing, ends homelessness, creates strong protections for renters and low-income homeowners, and pays reparations to Black and brown families hurt by racist housing policies.
All right. We demand free college for all. That means tuition, books, living expenses, the whole 9 yards, so that young people can take back control of our lives.
100% just and clean energy for all. 100% Just is a campaign that seeks to end the use of dirty energy, ensure racial and economic equity in this transition, and move from corporate control of the energy sector to public and community control.
And let's end mass incarceration. People's Action is working with partners to fight mass incarceration in both immigration destination and criminal justice for all.
Dignity for immigrants and refugees. We are working to ensure that all immigrants and refugees are treated with dignity and justice.
We want to end the overdose crisis. To address the overdose crisis, we want to stop the criminalization of drugs and drug users and build a compassionate public health system.
Guaranteed decent work. We want a federal jobs guarantee, a federal minimum wage of at least $15 an hour, and meaningful labor rights so that all workers can be free to join and form unions. Now, earlier tonight, our delegates assembly voted to affirm the new People's Platform. Now rise with me and let's make some noise if you are willing to fight for this platform. Rise with us!
Next, we want to lift up our national strategic partners who are with us today.
Student Action!
Woo! Yes! Center for Health and Environment and Justice.
Now we have to introduce the People's Action family organizations that bust their ass every day. From Washington, One America.
From New Mexico, Southwest Organizing Project.
From Connecticut, Connecticut Citizen Action.
Woo! From Arizona, Living United for Change in Arizona, Lucha! Lucha!
From Minnesota, take.
From Idaho, United Vision for Idaho.
From Missouri, give it up for our newest member of People's Action, Missouri Jobs with Justice.
Woo! Yeah. Welcome, welcome. And from Vermont, Rights and Democracy, Vermont.
From Ohio, Communities United for Action.
From Colorado, Colorado People's Alliance.
From West Virginia Citizen Action.
From Nevada, Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. Woo!
From California, San Francisco Rising.
organize for West Side Renewal, power, and ground game.
From North Carolina, down home, North Carolina.
From Pennsylvania, Keystone Progress.
Where's Reclaim Philadelphia?
From New Hampshire, New Hampshire Youth Movement.
Rights and Democracy, New Hampshire.
From New Jersey, across the river, New Jersey Citizen Action.
New Jersey Organizing Project.
From Wisconsin, Citizen Action of Wisconsin.
From Maine, Maine People's Alliance.
From Iowa, Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. Woo!
Iowa Student Action.
From Massachusetts, Neighbor to Neighbor, Massachusetts. Woo!
I just want to give a shout out, rest in power, Jafet Robles. From Michigan, Michigan United.
Woo! From Maryland. Did I say Maryland already?
No.
Did I say Maryland already? Okay. We're really close to Maryland. So, Progressive Maryland.
Illinois, Illinois People's Action.
And the James Adams Senior Caucus.
The People's Lobby, Reclaim Chicago.
And Organizing Neighborhoods for Equality, North Side, One North Side.
From New York, my hometown, Northwest Brook Community and Clergy Coalition.
Picture the homeless. Woo!
Community voices heard.
Woo! Okay, guys. Vocal New York. Woo! Yeah. Come on, I'm gonna do this one. I got this one, Bob. I got this one.
Yeah, go ahead. I got the next.
Citizen Action of New York.
This was not on the list. Corinne Society of Buffalo. Now, to talk about something that has silver, green, blue, a whole bunch of identities. Let's give it up for 100 people deep. Push Buffalo! Tell me what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose vote?
Our vote.
Whose money? Who are we?
People's action.
Who are we?
People's action.
Who are we?